Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello Scott.
Josh, my friend, this is insane. This seems like a ridiculous story that when I saw it doing the rounds, and it continues to do the rounds, I just kept saying that there's no way that'll happen. But it's worth covering because it's gathering a lot of steam. Now this initially came from TMT Finance. It was written up by Tweaktown. The story being that Tencent, the Chinese conglomerate business company getting various acquisitions left, right and center, are looking to raise billions and billions of dollars to perform a hostile takeover of a major company, and insiders say that company is going to be either Take-Two or EA. So that's kind of crazy in itself. There's a lot to break down, but what's your initial thoughts on the idea of Tencent sort of kicking the door in and having a word with each other?
It's just mad, isn't it? Like it's just crazy, and it wouldn't necessarily surprise me because, like you said, Tencent has been making acquisitions and making investments in a lot of different gaming companies over the past few years. They recently got a 40% stake in Epic. They've been throwing money out to other companies to get a 5% share here, a 10% share, and stuff like that. But obviously, this would be the kind of biggest thing, and the two that are rumored, EA and Take-Two, like you said, like they're so huge that you just can't imagine them being bought by anyone, really. You know what I mean? There were rumors like last year that Take-Two was going to get bought by Sony at one point, I think, and that was outrageous as well. You know what I mean? That was just something that I just couldn't wrap my head around and didn't believe. But this potentially does make a little bit more sense, and just because it's there's an intended hostile takeover doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. Vivendi, for instance, tried to take over Ubisoft for years and years, had multiple attempts at a hostile takeover, and they were fended off successfully at every stage. So it's not like this hasn't happened before. I'm not going to pretend to be some kind of like business journalist and pretend to know the intricacies of every kind of hostile takeover imaginable or how it works step by step, but I don't know, it's just a crazy story, isn't it? When you see that headline, it's kind of like you have to like do a double take and be like, huh? What's going on?
I think, but obviously, until Microsoft bought Bethesda for $7.5 billion, I think was what the total was for that. Like that seemed like, if we'd floated that idea a couple of years ago, Xbox is all the Bethesda stuff's gonna be Xbox exclusive. That stuff seemed insane too. But now that we're in this post that purchase has happened, and now we're past that, then I guess anything is possible. The other half of the report that's written up on this TMNT website mentions that a couple of the other potential companies that they could be raising the billions to go after are also Netmarble or Nexon. They're both in South Korea, but it's this nebulous insider group reckon that they're targeting Take-Two or someone in the West. It's worth going over all the acquisitions that Tencent have made across 2020 as well, because there are quite a lot. This was written up by Talk Esport, who noted that they had 31 separate business dealings across 2020, including a minor stake in Platinum Games, 148 million acquisition of Funcom. They had a minor stake in German studio Jaeger, $25 million investment in Lockwood from the UK, and they also were part of a $150 million raising contribution thing for Roblox, so they can get in with that. And like you mentioned, I noted that those things down too. They already have a 40% share in Epic, they have 5% in Ubisoft, they have 5% in Activision Blizzard, and they also have 11.5% in Bluehole, who make PUBG. So it's like they've been making a hell of a lot of moves, and it's not like it's in the background, but I think that because they do it without much there's like you have like a marketing spin or anything. It's just sort of like, we did this business deal and now we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this. And I think that unless you're playing something like PUBG on mobile and you realize, it's developed by Tencent, then even their name very rarely comes across most people's radars, because unless you're keeping an eye on finance stuff, it's not really going to pop up. But a lot of these moves are pretty damn seismic.
I mean, 100%, like you said, it's been happening for like a long time. And I started noticing it when I saw like Tencent start popping up as a logo on a bunch of kind of like different games. And it's just interesting to sort of pontificate on what like the end goal may be. Like, are they looking to acquire some kind of conglomerate of a bunch of different studios, a bunch of different publishers or something like that? Like, is this the first of many acquisitions to come? It feels like, for me, you mentioned Bethesda and Microsoft, and that certainly did spark something unprecedented in the video game realm. But for me, ever since Disney bought Fox, like we've just been in this realm of anything can happen. Like, you know what I mean? Any sort of acquisition can go through, and we're looking at these kind of like mega corporations essentially just like being comprised of all
Night
of these
City,
different...
baby.
Yeah, we're getting into the cyberpunk future, my friend. But it genuinely kind of feels like it at this point. And no matter what the company is, for me, I'm always against like this monopolistic view. Like even Microsoft getting Bethesda in a way is a bit too far, because I'm worried about what that will spark. We've said many times, like I don't want to see Sony kind of feel like they need to respond to that by buying their own studios, because then it just becomes this mad scramble of a handful of companies owning everything, which obviously isn't great, no matter how respected or good their products may be. Like it's just for me not an environment that I think cultivates varied and vibrant and interesting work.
It's a really weird thing, because I think, one, I wonder what their end game is. Like I kind of wonder why, if you're that company, you're acquiring all this stuff. Why are you going to do something incredible with it? Are you going to put something back into the industry? Like they've created a couple of games, and honestly, like, Tencent developed games just because sheer value, fact that they have so much money put into them, and so much quality testing and everything. PUBG on phones is brilliant. I mean, that's one of the only Tencent games that I played a lot of, at least back when it came out. And I just think that what's your end game for this? You want to have all these like stakes and everything. Is it sheer greed? Is it sheer just amassing of wealth? Like, or is it something where you're going to start becoming this big known quantity in a more of a creative capacity? Because taking over someone like if you want to take over EA, then apparently they're going after the EA Sports stuff, then you could do that. I guess that there's not necessarily much of a artistic value in EA Sports, not to knock those devs, but something like Take-Two, obviously they house Rockstar, and then they would have Grand Theft Auto, and you have this big sort of personable franchise that has an identity and has a following and has a personality to it. And like, would those things change? Would they just operate them from behind? Like I don't know, like would you, it just seems so crazy that something like GTA could then belong to a completely different entity altogether.
Yeah. GTA, I think, is the big stickler for a lot of people, because I mean, you look at the other things inside Take-Two, and there are a lot of interesting, cool games like Borderlands or Mafia or whatever. But you imagine like the bulk of the money comes from GTA, and then the microtransactions on sports franchises and stuff like that. And it's the same with EA. When FIFA makes $1 billion a year or whatever, like those are the high profit margins that companies are looking to have for themselves, and in this case just kind of inherit by taking over the company. So it does make you wonder whether what will happen to those not necessarily smaller properties and games, but certainly in terms of FIFA or Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, what happens to the other franchises that have avoided, or at least partly avoided, the games as service kind of mentality for a while now. I'm not sure, but I don't know, Scott, it seems like I said, it's almost like cyberpunk dystopian future where we're going to have a handful of companies owning everything, and it's just going to be like, cool, everything's games as a service now, everything's got FIFA points in it, everything is a certain way.
Assumedly, if they owned a bit of everyone who's all competing, because they already own Epic and Bluehole, so they already own both sides of that war between Fortnite and PUBG. So it's like if they just own everything, then does that free up the necessity for games as a service? Would this not lead to some sort of flattening of the curve where you can just do any idea and they make money anyway? So just do whatever you want. Do Legacy of Kain, we don't care. Just do whatever you want.
No, do not use this, Scott, as an excuse for you to get Legacy of Kain back. I know this is your end game. You're talking about Tencent's endgame. I know it's just Scott Tailford's endgame, just to get Legacy of Kain.
If it takes a full global revolution to resurrect Legacy of Kain, then maybe I'll sign up for it. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. The idea of something as crazy as Tencent acquiring Take-Two or EA going forward. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time.
Bye.